everyone, welcome to Life Church. We are so excited that you are here. If you are new, thank you so much for coming to check us out. I need you to do me a favor and get your hands on one of these. We call it a connection card. Just fill it out and take it to the merch counter after service, and one of my friends will get you a free gift on us. Moms and dads, your kids are going to love our weekly summer blast this June and July at our Saginaw campus. Wednesday mornings are going to be packed full of fun outdoor games, engaging live music, God-centered teaching, and friends and memories that will last a lifetime. For more information and to sign up, head over to our website at lifechurchmichigan.com/Summer Blast. June 15th, grab your lawn chairs and water bottles and join us for a free outdoor family movie night. We're going to have bounce houses, popcorn, and at sundown, we're going to watch The Incredibles on a giant outdoor movie screen. You don't want to miss it. But that is not all that is happening this summer. For more information, here's Christian.
We're offering our first ever student camp. It's called The Best Week Ever, and it really is going to be the best week ever. So if you have a student who's coming into 6th grade all the way through 12th grade, get them here at our Saginaw campus. For more information about Bay City, here's John.
Hey Lifers, this is John coming to you from Bay City, the future site of Life Church, Bay City. We're becoming one church, 3 locations, Midland, Saginaw, and Bay City, because we want to do whatever it takes to reach more people far from God throughout the Great Lakes Bay region with no reserves, no retreats, no regrets. This theater closed in 2009. It's kind of become like a scene from Hoarders, but we're clearing out the junk, and I'm excited that our Bay City launch team is about to tour the facility for the very first time. God's favor has opened the doors to give us a movie theater. We're paying $1 a month in rent. Going into 3 locations, Midland, Saginaw, Bay City, the logistics are what we really need prayer support for. Because we want, when people walk into any Life Church campus, to have the same kids experience, the same worship experience, and the exact same message. Ezra the priest gathers all the people before they do the work. And he's nervous. He's got butterflies in the stomach. He can see it in his head, but he's going, how do we pull this off? And so in Ezra 8, I proclaimed a fast so that we might humble ourselves before our God and ask Him for a safe journey for us and our children and all our possessions. And Ezra goes on to say, I told the king, the gracious hand of our God is on everyone who looks to Him. Is anything too hard for our God? Asked the prophet Jeremiah. We believe that if we pray like it depends on God, work like it depends on us, we can breathe new life into the musty walls of this former movie theater and transform it into a space where people far from God can experience the love of God at their own pace. Help us out. We're looking for people that can swing a hammer, paint up with a paintbrush. Maybe you've got special skills to bring to the table. Go to lifechurchmichigan.com/Bay City. Help us flip a movie theater. Or join the launch team meeting every Thursday night here in the Bay City area. Or give a special gift to help us get some paint supplies, to get chairs, to get equipment we need. Just go to lifechurchgive.com for your tax-deductible donation. And in Christ, the best is yet to come.
Church, we believe in God, the one and only true God who sent His only Son to die for all of humanity. We believe in a perfect love that casts out all fear. So our mission is simple, to love. Love with no limits, no boundaries, no exceptions made and no corners cut. We believe that only light can drive out darkness and only love can drive out hate. We are a church of sinners, saved by grace. We believe that Jesus is not to make bad people good, but to bring dead people to life. So this is an invitation to the destined about their destinies, an invitation to change history forever, an invitation to join us on this journey as we fearlessly love the city.
So my name is John. Welcome to Life Church. And if you're going, why am I in a gym? What is going on? Basically, this has been going on for 2,000 years. You see, 2,000 years ago, there was a carpenter who became a king. And whether you believe in God or not, God believes in you. He's pursuing you through his people. And his people are called the church. It's a movement of changed lives that has echoed through the past 2 millennia. Little startups that began in caves and in underground churches continue today in gymnasiums and cathedrals. And you have a front row seat to a fresh new movement of God in the greater Midland area. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to go to church. I want to be the church. I don't want to play church. I want to go out and serve people, love people, and do whatever it takes to help people who are far from God discover a fresh start with the Son of God, Jesus. And so whether you come here all the time or you're just kind of checking us out, kicking the tires, thank you for being our guest. Faith is a journey, not a guilt trip. If you've got a Bible or a Bible app, I want to invite you to pull that baby out. Now, if you don't have a Bible, no problem. You can pull out your smartphone, whether it's an iPhone or an Android. You can get the free Bible app. And then when you go into events, you'll see Life Church Midland pop up, and it's got the entire message on the Bible app for you, which is incredible. Like, modern technology is nuts, right? But make sure you turn your ringer off, because if we're praying later and your little AC/DC ringtone that's so cute at the parties, Highway to Hell, goes off during the prayer, not so cool, right? We're kicking off a fresh new summer message series together in both Midland and Saginaw, and we call it Fearless. Touch someone next to you and say, fearless. We all desire a life where we're fearless. But too often we bought into the lie of stress and doubt and lies. So we turn to the movies, we turn to television and watch these championships, looking for heroes who personify fearlessness. Why do we love the Avengers? Well, A, they're awesome, right? They got a Hulk. But B, they're fearless in the face of Thanos. Or Solo. Anybody seen the Solo movie yet? Okay, one person. The rest of you need Jesus. I sat there for 2 hours, 15 minutes this week watching Solo. My jaw was dropped. I was a third grader again. I'm like, yes, Chewbacca. Yes, because they're fearless. There's something that stirs within our hearts when we see someone that's fearless, because in the book of Ecclesiastes it says that God has placed eternity in the hearts of all people. So whether you believe in God or not, you know deep down inside that you are meant for something more in life. To be a woman or man who is fearless. That's why we watch sports. We got some football fans here. Yeah, this is like your dead season, right? You live for the draft on ESPN, and then you're like, okay, now what am I going to do? I'll watch some golf, and then you fall asleep. So then you're like me, and you start to watch the NBA Finals. Yeah, that's right. Right now is the best week of the year in my household. I live to see the championship between the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers. And did you see game 1 the other night? Oh my goodness, it was smack your grandma good. Listen, even if you don't watch basketball, the last 2 minutes were cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. It was crazy what happened. There was missed calls by the refs. There was a missed free throw that would have won the game for the Cleveland team. And then in the final 3 seconds, you probably heard about it on social media, One of the Cavaliers, J.R. Smith, gets the ball. All he has to do is put it in the stinking basket. My 10-year-old could have put the ball in the basket, but you know what this NBA superstar did? He went the other direction. He dribbled the ball away from his basket. He's like that 3-year-old on the soccer field who kicks the ball, thinks he's winning, but he's putting it in the wrong basket. And everybody's like, what are you doing? And did you see the meme, the picture of LeBron? He's going, right, to JR. And we've all had that face, what are you doing? If you're a mom or a dad, you've had that face before. When you go on a car trip up north, and you got the kids in the back, and you're leaving the rest stop, and 10 minutes into the drive, your 5-year-old kicks the back of your seat and says, I gotta go potty. We were just at the rest stop. We've all made that face like LeBron. So we want to be fearless. We watch sports, we watch movies. We're seeking someone who personifies fearlessness. Because at work, at home, at school, if you and I were fearless, if we were unstoppable, man, we could make a difference, not just in our households, not just at our campus or at our workplace, but in the Great Lakes Bay region. You realize that 50% of our region is under age 40. This is a young region, Midland, Saginaw Bay City. Gen Xers and millennials, and you know that they're not crushing into these pews. And so, I don't know about you, but I have a whatever it takes attitude toward reaching people in our region, in our generation, who would never darken a church door. And that's why Life Church is here. So this new series, Fearless, is all centered on the writings of a guy named John. John was the youngest of the disciples, and he's the only disciple that lived into his 90s and died a natural death. All the other disciples were tortured, executed, slaughtered like Game of Thrones. Only John got to live into his geriatric years. And John wrote a bunch of books. He wrote the Gospel of John, which is like a biography of Jesus. And then he wrote 1 John, and it was a bestseller, so then he got to do a trilogy, just like Lord of the Rings, so 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, and then he got to write the final book of the Bible that we all, focus on the History Channel, the book of Revelation. John wrote a big chunk of the Bible, and this summer, we want to journey through 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, and Jude together. And we're doing it through this daily Bible reading plan that you received on the way in. This starts next Sunday. And we're also releasing, starting next Sunday, daily digital Bible studies, 5-minute nuggets for free on our Facebook page. So that way, if you go up north, you go camping, you go on vacation, you miss church, you can still tune in on Facebook. And you've got a game plan for each day so that between June and August, my goal, listen, here's my heart. If I can get a bunch of women, men, and teenagers to read through 4 short books of the Bible by the beginning of the school year, we will be fearless. And we will be ready to really drill down deep here in Midland and reach people for God here. And then in Bay City to flip that movie theater and reach people in the Thumb and in Bay City. And together, through Christ, we will see that the best is yet to come. So that fire you up, that's the prologue. That's the beginning of the sermon. That's just the beginning. All right, here we go. So if you got a Bible app, we're going to be jumping around a little bit, but let me get you into the Gospel of John. I just today want you to get the heartbeat of this guy named John, who 2,000 years ago wrote a biography about Jesus. In John 20, verse 31, John, who's probably in his 20s or 30s when he wrote these words, he said, here's the reason I wrote all this stuff that's in the Bible. He said, these things are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ. Now, he didn't write this in English. He wrote this in Greek, so the word Christ is Christos, and he's talking about the Hebrews' Messiah. And so the Old Testament looks forward to a rescuer, a mighty hero who is fearless, who has calcium in the spine, Red Bull in his veins, who will fix everything that's wrong with our world, the Messiah. And so the Greek word is Christos. And when we translate it into English, that's where we get the word Christ. And John says, I wrote this book so that you will believe Jesus is the Christ. He's the Son of the living God. And that by believing, you may have life in his name. See, God is not angry with you. God didn't come here to judge you. It may have been years since you've darkened a church door, and I give you mad props for coming here today. God's not angry. God is pursuing you. He loves you with an everlasting love, and he desires to give you a better life than you've scrounged up for yourself. And you can't achieve God's love. You simply receive God's love when you believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. In the book of Revelation, chapter 1, verse 1, John wrote these words. He said, here's why I'm writing this. He said, in the center, around this throne, I see an image of Christ, is what John was saying. In Revelation 4:7, he says there's this throne in the center of heaven. And we've seen Game of Thrones on HBO. You know that whichever woman or man sits on the throne, everybody's focused on. They're the ruler. They're awesome. And he says, in reality, Jesus is on the throne. And all around him are four living creatures. And church people, we get all, hyper. What are these four living creatures? Maybe this connects to this, and this number means this, and there's Black Hawk helicopters, and we're all going to be beamed up into the sky. That's not what the book of Revelation is aiming for. The title of John's final book is The Revelation of Jesus Christ. And what John is doing is he's saying, this is who Jesus is. On the throne, ruling and reigning in all his glory. And so you go, okay, what are these four living creatures? Some scholars would say they each represent one of the four Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Four biographies of Jesus that are written for four different audiences. The fourth gospel, John, is written for everybody. It was meant to go viral. It's like the Google Earth view of Jesus and how he connects to each of our lives. And so in Revelation 4:7, John says that the fourth living creature that surrounds Jesus' throne is like an eagle in flight. That represents the Gospel of John. Because an eagle soars high, just as John's writings apply to everybody. And an eagle has no fear, and it's not blinded by the light of the sun. Just as John's gospel talks a lot about light and dark and being fearless. So today's message, the first of our summer message series, it's a hashtag and three simple words. We are fearless. Touch someone next to you. Say, we are fearless. That's our hashtag. That's the direction we're going. There's three simple points I want to make today. Three reasons that John, the author, was fearless. And the first is this. John had a front row seat. He was maybe 12 or 13 years old. All the followers of Jesus, the disciples, were teenagers. John was the youngest, and he had a front row seat to a movement that we're still talking about today. And so John wants to compile a writing of this movement, and he writes the Gospel of John. In the beginning, John chapter 1, verse 1, it says, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, the Word was God. And so what John is doing is he's talking to two different audiences. The first audience is our Hebrew friends, our Jewish friends. And he's using language that connects to Genesis. So John is saying, it's like Pee Wee Herman, connect there, that's la la la. Remember how Genesis opens with, in the beginning was God. So now in John 1:1, he's connecting it. He's saying, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God. So he's saying, hey, Hebrews, remember how God spoke and creation leapt into existence? That was Jesus. He's connecting it to Jesus. And then to the non-Hebrew friends, the Greeks of his day. The Greeks had this philosophy about wisdom. The Greek word for wisdom is logos. And they believed that somewhere out in the universe was this logos, this wisdom kind of floating out there. And so John uses that Greek word logos. He says, in the beginning was logos, wisdom. And the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. And so to his non-Jewish friends, John is saying that Logos, that wisdom, it's personified in Jesus of Nazareth. Wisdom and God find their fullness in Jesus. And that's just mind-blowing to everybody that's reading this. So later in John chapter 19, verse 35, John says, here, I got a front row seat to this. He who saw it has borne witness. In John's gospel, that word witness is used 43 times. 43 times, this young guy who's trying to say, here's who Jesus is. He's amazing. He says, I had a front row seat. I was a witness. And he keeps saying this over and over. His testimony is true. And he that is telling the truth is saying this that you may also believe. He's like, dude, there was life before Jesus. Then I met him as a teenager and it's changed everything. I'm fearless. I had a front row seat. I'm a witness. He's using legal testimony. And if you look at the book of John from beginning to end, it's almost like he's giving one big long trial scene. He says, here's how it all began, and it leads to the cross. And then John says the cross, the crucifixion of Jesus, was not a mistake. Jesus didn't fail. He actually succeeded by dying. And that was part of his plan. Jesus wasn't suckered into his death. He laid down his life for us. That's what John is trying to communicate, saying, I'm a witness to this. Revelation 1:1, same thing. He says that God revealed this to me by sending an angel to his servant John, who bears witness to everything he saw. And so John has a front row seat to a movement of God. And his language choices in all of his books, it's just phenomenal. See, back in the 1940s, you can Google this when you get home, they discovered in a cave these ancient scrolls. And they came to be known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. It was a really big deal because it connects to the time of Jesus. It's like a time capsule. It's like getting in the DeLorean and you go back in time, right? And so these Dead Sea Scrolls were written by this kind of cultish community called Qumran. Sounds like something in Star Trek, right? The Qumrans have landed. Okay, so Qumran, they are all about absolutes. They're living in the desert. They don't get to drink a lot. They're wearing some heavy leather, eating mosquitoes. They're kind of weird, living in caves. And they deal in absolutes: light, darkness, truth, falsehood, flesh, spirit. And one of the people that was influenced by the Qumran community is a guy named John the Baptist. Heard of him? And he was a little crazy because he was out in the wild. You know, he was like Bear Grylls, you know, naked man. And he's like baptizing people and eating honey and mosquitoes and weird stuff. And, you know, he's got a beard longer than ZZ Top, doesn't shower, doesn't use Axe body spray. That's John the Baptist. And John the Baptist gets some followers. One of those followers was 12-year-old John, the disciple. So John the disciple is influenced by John the Baptist. John the Baptist is influenced by Qumran, and the Qumran language echoes into 1 John, 2 John, 3 John. So John, when he writes, he says things like light and darkness and life and death and flesh and spirit. That's what you're going to encounter as we journey through these books together this summer. John had a front row seat, and it made him fearless. Number 2, John was chosen. We all like to be chosen. Remember when you were younger and you were in a gym like this in a school? And it was PE class, and you're already nervous because they're going to divide you up into teams, and then the 2 popular kids get to pick the teams, and you're just like saying a silent prayer. You're not even a Christian, but you're praying at that moment, oh, please, God, don't let me be picked last. That's the worst, right? You want to be chosen for the team. You don't want to be the leftovers. Well, in God's economy, you are not a leftover. What we see in the scriptures is that people are chosen by God, not based on anything they've achieved, but because of what Jesus achieved for you. John was chosen. John was just a simple guy. He was like, One of those Michiganders who go out camping. I don't understand, you work all year hard so that you can take a week off, some vacation time to go up north and pretend to be homeless. I don't get it. But John was one of those guys. He loved going fishing, hanging out with his buddies. And I took this picture a couple years ago on the banks of the Sea of Galilee. Oh no, I don't have the picture here. Imagine in your head a picture. And there's the Sea of Galilee, and there's rocks on the seashore, and John, Peter, and James, they're out fishing. They've been out all night. They've not caught anything. And then this homeless dude kind of walks by in sandals and a robe, and he's like, throw your net on the other side. And they're like, look at that guy. So they do, and then the net is overflowing with fish. So like, who was that guy? I got to meet that guy. So they go to the shore, and it's Jesus. And in Luke, Jesus said, do not be afraid. See, we did not choose God, but God chose us. And the first thing God always says to his followers is, do not be afraid. You have permission to be fearless. There is nothing that can hurt you anymore. A missionary 100 years ago once said that any man or woman who's doing God's work is immortal until the Father calls them home. You have permission to be fearless. Jesus says, do not be afraid. From now on, he's looking at a bunch of teenagers smelling like fish guts. He says, from now on, you're going to be catching men. See, you and I, we have a mission. We have a job. We have a role that's bigger than our households, that's bigger than the American dream. It's to make heaven crowded. Jesus says, from now on, we're going to fish for men. And they left everything and followed him. Because when someone gives you a golden ticket to Willy Wonka, you don't have to stop and pray about it, right? You don't need to stop. The COO of Facebook once said this. She said, when someone gives you an empty seat on a rocket ship to Mars, you don't need to stop and think about it. When Jesus chooses you, you say, giddy up, buttercup, let's go. And it doesn't make you perfect to follow Jesus. John wasn't perfect. This guy was a knucklehead. He was just like a couple French fries short of a Happy Meal. He kept losing his temper. Jesus gives him a nickname. This little 12-year-old John who keeps losing his temper, he calls, you're a son of thunder. Thunder, like the thunder. Boom, boom, boom. You're welcome. I'll be here at 11:30 also. See, one time John gets hacked off in Luke chapter 9, verse 51. He gets hacked off. He goes, Lord, do you want us to call fire down from heaven to destroy them? I just love that imagery. Jesus, I don't like those guys. Can we incinerate them? Let's burn. It's like Beavis and Butthead. Fire, fire, right? Can we just burn them? And Jesus is like, knucklehead. I'm the Son of God. Chill, right? See, when you're chosen like John was chosen, it's not based on you, because you and I, we're still knuckleheads. But Jesus transforms us over time. And over time, years later, the Apostle Paul, he goes to Jerusalem to talk to John. He's like now in his 30s. And in Galatians 2:9, Paul says this. He says, James, Peter, and John were the pillars of the early church. If you're an architect, if you do construction, you know that when you're framing a house or a building, the pillars are the support network. And if you take out the foundation, it comes down. This John, this knucklehead who has a bad temper, this should give you and I hope. He later becomes a hero, a fearless hero in the movement of God's love. Because he had a front row seat and he was chosen. But number 3, this guy John was fearless. Just as I hope and desire that this summer, you and I become a fearless movement of changed lives. John was fearless. He was can't stop, won't stop. Remember that song in the 90s? I get knocked down, but I get up again. That was John's ringtone. He was like can't stop, won't stop. He was unstoppable. He was immovable. He was fearless. What would it look like if you and I were fearless? Imagine the legacy we could leave our children and our grandchildren if you and I were fearless in our faith and if we did crazy things for God. Man, I want to be part of something that is destined to fail unless God intervenes. Because the word impossible is not in God's vocabulary. Have you read this book? Our God specializes in that can't be done. So if you're freaking out, if you're at the edge of a cliff going, I don't know how this is going to work out, awesome. God's probably in it. But if you're comfortable and everything's predictable in your life and you get bored easily, nobody ever got bored following Jesus. I've read the book. I see how it all ends. John was fearless. And that's what I desire for you. That's what I desire for me. In Luke chapter 9, verse 29, here's why John was fearless. He got to see Jesus as he truly is. Jesus takes Peter, James, and John up this huge mountain. So they've gone to Gander Mountain, they've gone to Dick's Sporting Goods, they've got their gear, they're clipping belay, belay. They climb the mountain with Jesus. And then they have an experience as Jesus was praying on the mountain. Crazy stuff goes down. His face changed, right? Only this is real life. And his clothing became dazzling white. They saw his glory. When the Bible talks about glory, it literally translates as weight. So the glory of God means the full weight and impact of the fullness of God. When Moses saw God face to face, it said that Moses was like radioactive for radioactive. I can work any song into this, right? They're all Imagine Dragons tunes too, so you know it's on my iPhone. For 40 days, Moses had to have a veil over his face because he had beheld the glory of God. John, 12-year-old John, he beholds the glory of Jesus as he truly is, the Logos, the Word, God in human flesh. And when you see Jesus as he truly is, it makes you fearless. I grew up in a traditional small Presbyterian church. And I always tell people, if you rearrange the letters in Presbyterians, it spells Britney Spears. Figure that out. And so we had stained glass windows. I'm not knocking traditional churches. I love it. I grew up in it. My pastor was the pastor of it. But every stained glass window of Jesus did not inspire me. As a man, it's hard to get behind a guy who's depicted as wearing this, red robe, a dress almost, and he's got flowing hair with product. It seems like he's sipping iced tea or Diet Coke, rocking out to Mariah Carey, and he always has a lamb around his neck, and I'm like, dude, I can't get excited about that. That won't make me fearless. That makes me want to sleep in on Sunday. And so we get this image in our heads from stained glass windows that Jesus was just like this hippie, peasant, Mediterranean Jew who just kind of took a beating and then died. And he's always hanging on a cross, right? And we're just like, that doesn't inspire me. Maybe at Christmas and Easter I get excited, but that's why I don't go to church. The reason why people don't go to church is because they've been to a church. Think about it. That doesn't inspire people because that's not the Jesus of the Bible. That's not Jesus as he truly is. Yes, he came in humility. He came on a donkey. He came in peace. But then he conquered sin, sickness, death, rose. And after he rose, dude, stuff got crazy. Jesus was walking through walls. He was appearing in different places. He was levitating. He was doing sick stuff, right? And so John, he was fearless because that's the Jesus he knew. That's the Jesus that inspired him to be fearless. He ends up helping start churches all up and down the Mediterranean rim. Just like we started Life Church from scratch 5 years ago. And it says that John ends up being the pastor in this port city called Ephesus. It's like Times Square. It's the center of art and creativity and science and everything. And so he's the pastor of this church in Ephesus. Romans are killing the disciples. Peter is crucified upside down. James, the brother of John, is thrown off a building. James, the brother of Jesus, spear through the chest, just like Game of Thrones. John is the last living disciple. He's like 90 years old. He's like the cute pastor of the church. Hello, everyone. And everybody's like, that guy's balling. He hung out with Jesus. He knew Jesus. He had a front row seat. He was chosen. And so Rome wants to stop the Jesus movement. They arrest John, take him to Rome. And instead of movie theaters, they had these coliseums to entertain people. Thousands of people come. They're chomping on popcorn, taking selfies. And 90-year-old John is brought out in chains. And instead of throwing him to the lions, they bring out this boiling pot, a cauldron of boiling oil. And a hush falls over the crowd. The entertainment today is to watch him boil alive. The writer Tertullian writes that John was thrown into the cauldron of boiling oil, and a miracle occurs. he's not burned. He's brought out of the cauldron, and a hush comes over the crowd as they realize the 90-year-old has been unscathed and untouched, protected by God. And Tertullian writes that the majority of the people present give their lives to Christ. Because when you have a front row seat and you understand God has chosen you, you become fearless. Well, the Roman emperor will have nothing of it. He wants to stop John. If he can't kill him, he'll banish him. Roman banishment was a huge tool in the Roman army. He gets banished to an island. It's like Survivor, only he's all alone, 90 years old, hot sun, no Wi-Fi, no AC. It's Sunday morning. And the worst place to be as a pastor on a Sunday is all alone, with no church, no congregation. And on that sandy desert beach, he has an encounter with the living Christ that sears itself into the pages of history, the book of Revelation. We already saw Revelation 1 where the angel says, write this down. And what John writes down is an image. He sees reality. This world melts away and he sees things as they truly are, eternity. Because for everyone, listen, death is not the end of the road. It's simply a bend in the road. All of us will go somewhere. John sees where he's going. He beholds heaven, and he sees the throne. We saw in Revelation 4, the throne, and we see the crown on Jesus, the risen one, and he's no longer this marginalized peasant. He is the King of glory. And in Revelation 19, we get something far better than empty stained glass windows. We get a picture of Jesus as he truly is here and now. And this image of Jesus will inspire the hearts of men. It will thrill the hearts of women. It will galvanize a generation to do whatever it takes, fearless, to reach people far from God. Can I share with you this image of Jesus? Revelation 19, verse 11, John said, I saw heaven opened, and behold, a white horse. This excites me. Because the King, Jesus, has risen from the throne. All of heaven hushes, eyeballs locked onto him. He goes to the heavenly stables, and he gets on a horse. Not a gray mule, not a black stallion, a white horse. Oh, that'll preach. Jesus is on a white horse, not a tricycle. He's on a flippin' white horse. The one sitting on it is called faithful. Your friends may have betrayed you. Your relationships may be broken, but Jesus is always faithful and true. We elect leaders who lie to our faces, but Jesus is the leader and ruler who will always speak the truth to you. And in righteousness, with a perfect record, this King Jesus judges and makes war. And I like that. As a man, I can get behind the King on a white stallion who's here to do some business. And then it says that his eyes are like a flame of fire. Forget X-Men. Cyclops is a loser. Jesus has flames of fire. What? And then it says that on his head is not one crown. Dude, he's got a stack of crowns. He is lit up. He is like ultimate fighter Jesus. He has come to wage war, and all the men are like, I like this Jesus. And he has a name written that no one knows but himself. I don't know what that means. I got a degree in theology, and I have no idea what that means, but it's awesome. And then it says that this Jesus is clothed in a robe. I saw Star Wars. Every Jedi wears a robe. And so he's clothed in a robe dipped in blood. How bad is Jesus that his robe is dipped in blood? What? And the name by which he is called is the Word, the Logos, the Wisdom, the beginning and end of God. Whoa! And it gets better! Wait! I'm just getting started. This man, faithful and true on the white stallion, he's got an army. He's leading the armies of heaven. And they were arrayed in fine linen, white and pure. And they were following him on white horses. Everybody gets a white horse. I feel like Oprah. You get a white horse. You get a white horse. And we get white linen to fight the battle. Listen, if I'm playing pool at a bar and someone says, meet me in the alley, and they show up with a white stallion and they're wearing white to fight, it means they're not even planning on getting dirty. That's Jesus. He means business, right? And on his robe and on his thigh, he has a name written, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. It says on his thigh. That's a tattoo. He's tattooed up. I don't care what it says in Leviticus. Jesus has a tattoo. He is the King of Kings. He is the Lord of Lords. He's on the white horse leading the army into battle. And that's the Jesus we worship. That's the Jesus John saw. That's why we can be fearless. So let me bring this in for a landing. John had a front row seat. John was chosen. John was fearless. This happened 2,000 years ago and has continued to change lives for the past 2 millennia. And this same Jesus is alive today, and he can make you fearless. I want to introduce you to a gentleman just for 2 minutes. He's been coming out to Life Church for a number of years. He's a regular Michigander. He's a brewmaster. And about 2 months ago, everything that could go wrong in his life went wrong. And yet he remained fearless. Watch this.
Hi, my name's Jeff, and this is my story. April 5th of this year, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer that spread into my liver. To be honest, it was like a punch in the gut for sure. But the reality is that from the very first moment, the first thing I said is, Jesus, I'm trusting you no matter what. And so that's what my wife and I have been doing is trusting Jesus. A week after my first chemo treatment, I lost my job. And that made it even tougher. And so there's a lot of things that we really had to really think about, pray about, especially put in God's hands. And it was how are we going to survive? How are we going to pay the medical bills? Because I did not and don't have any medical insurance. And so that was difficult, but we decided that the only thing we could do is put it in God's hands, because he's been trustworthy with us for everything. But this was really a big thing, letting go and letting him really have that and not really being worried about it at all. And so as time goes forward and you continue to try to work things out, and as we continue treatments and that, and continue trusting God for the very fact that he's going to walk us through this, here's what happened just this past week. On Thursday, I go onto the U of Michigan account that shows my billing. I gotta be honest with you, it's pretty tough to see, almost $61,000 worth of debt accumulate that I'm responsible for. And, been told that no matter what we pay, that they'll accept it, and we take it like that. So I log on to that account and see that it had all been paid. I was a little confused because everything was zeroed out, but saw over $60,700 had been paid. Well, then just a little while later, my wife comes home and goes out to the mailbox and comes with this letter from the University of Michigan. This is from their charity foundation. They said that they've covered all the costs for my medical. I couldn't believe it, and they said that they were covering my costs through December of 2018 and then would reevaluate my situation afterwards. And I got to tell you, I was dumbfounded. Not that I didn't believe that God could do that sort of thing, but the very fact that that happened, because that's more than I made in a year. And so knowing full well that that's taken care of, and the only thing that we have to be concerned about is be concerned about our monthly bills and those type of things. But it was truly a yay God, that we could look and say, God, you have been faithful. We've been faithful in trying to honor you with our lives, with our finances, with everything else, and you've been faithful. And so I guess what I'd like to say is that no matter what your circumstance is, God will be faithful to you as well.
So as I invite the band to come up here and lead us in one last song, I would sum this up by saying you can be fearless. What's your next step? A simple next step is to take this Bible reading plan home and begin with us next Sunday. It's only like 2 or 3 verses a day. Anybody can do that. Another next step is maybe you're riled up and you're saying, man, I'm ready to drink the Kool-Aid. Come back at 12:30. We have something called Next Step class. It's right here. It's 45 minutes. We'll feed you and your family. We have free childcare, and we would love to answer your questions about Life Church and show you ways that you can be part of this movement that we're doing here. Or last but not least, during this final song, our ushers will pass around blue offering buckets. Listen, we don't want something from you. We want something for you. And when you trust God with your finances, that's the pathway to being fearless. Because when you give to the church, you give through the church.